Welcome to COIS-FRSC 2750, Computer Crime and Forensics. We have a large class here. At last check, we were, I think, 369 of us, which is excellent. I'm a big fan of computer forensics. I have done computer forensics 10 years of my life. I'm now working as an accountant. I won't go too much into my background, but I'm very passionate about computer forensics. This is a really good course with the caveat that we don't get to use computer forensics software in it, but we will talk a lot about computer forensics. We will be very technical about computer forensics. So we'll talk about different kinds of artifacts and all sorts of hopefully very interesting things to you as we go through. It's a course that you want to keep up with. You don't want to get behind in. There's a fair bit of material coming your way. There's a decent amount of reading and some lectures to listen to, but hopefully it's very interesting to you. We get a wide cross-section of people. We get the forensic science people that are more typically biology-based, and we get our computer science people that don't know much about forensics in general. And we get random people that are just interested. We get some nursing people, and you know, it's not, I don't believe this is a mandatory course for anything, so it's an interest course. So I hope to you know, satisfy that interest. It's excellent that we have this many people that have joined. We're over 100 people now. The people that do come to the office hours, or at the very least watch the office hours, because I will post the recordings, are always the people that are most successful. I'm happy to answer any questions in office hours, no matter how many times I've answered them. I'm not happy to get 300 email asking me when something's due or whatever. Sort of the trivial questions that I've already posted in either the office hours discussion or in the syllabus itself. So I just simply can't scale. I'm a part-time professor. Even if I was a full-time professor, I wouldn't have the capacity to do every housekeeping email for over 300 students, almost 400 students. On the other hand, I will respond to any email that you send me within 24 hours, even if that is simply to tell you where to find the information. So if it's something that's in the syllabus that you should have read in the syllabus, I'll say, please refer to the syllabus. Okay, so I do respond. I do respond promptly. The caveat to that is if you send me an email from your Gmail or your Hotmail or whatever account that you have, it usually goes to my junk folder, and I don't look at that more than a couple times a week. So you need to send me email from your Trent email account. And please put the subject in the subject name or the course code in the subject line of your email. I am teaching 2 and helping out with a 3rd course, so I need to know what course you're referring to, okay? What I want to do is I'll go through, I'm going to kind of navigate through Blackboard and deal with a bunch of questions as we go. Please fill up chat with questions as we go. I'll do my spiel, and then I will make sure before I sign off that I've answered everyone's questions. You're welcome to cut in by audio or video if you prefer to do it that way. I'm fine with that. But I will try and get through in an orderly manner. So if you start asking me about the final exam now, I'll get to it in order here. So bear with me. If I'm not clear about something, please do ask questions. So I am going to share my screen. And hopefully you can see that. I'm going to turn off my video because all you'll see is the side of my head looking at my screen to my right. And I just have to set things up again so that I can see the chat. Okay, I think we're good there. All right, so start off in we'll start off in the homepage. which is nothing exciting, just sort of your homepage. The next place that you should go and spend a little wee bit of time is in our Getting Started. So our Getting Started introduces me a little bit and gives you an opportunity, if you're interested, to connect with me on LinkedIn. The benefits to you may be some networking. I post things about forensics jobs and forensic information, things like that. I also post, here's the warning, I also am a big pro-gun guy and a big pro-Pierre Poilievre conservative guy. I post a lot of politics. You can feel free to mute me, but I do, those are the things that I post most about in LinkedIn. You're forewarned. We have 3 workshop leaders that are working with us, Jordan and Alex and Leo. I have worked with Jordan and Alex many times in multiple different courses, and they're excellent. I'm really have no reservations about recommending them. This is my first time working with Leo. He looks like he's going to be great, but I don't know Leo yet. If you have a question and it's a content related question or something like that, you can approach myself or any of the workshop leaders. Probably best is to send the question to all of us. The first person that can answer will answer you. We don't assign specific students to specific workshop leaders in this course. So what we'll be doing, they will be doing a lot of the marking in the course, and we'll rotate who everyone marks. So as you go through the course, you're going to get marked by me, you're going to get marked by Jordan and Alex and Leo, okay? And if you have questions about the mark, then it'll be, you know, if you need clarification or whatever, then the person that did your mark will be the one that can respond to you, okay? If you have say you have a medical situation where you're unable to complete something and you need some sort of accommodation, you've got a doctor's note and that sort of, support, that's me. The workshop leaders cannot give extensions. They cannot do those sorts of things. I see that there are quite a few students who have already enrolled with student accessibility services at this point, and I'm getting those lists of accommodations coming in. If you feel that you need to be accommodated, and I suspect that almost everyone here is a second or later year student, then you need to go and speak to a student accessibility services advisor and go through whatever that process is. I 100% of the time will follow their recommendations. So if their recommendation is that you can only write 1 exam per day and I have to reschedule your exam because of that, I will do it. If you get 25% more time for your exam, I will do that. I have no problem with any of that. If you send me an email and you say, I have a high course load and I'm very busy this week and I have a midterm this week and I can't get your quiz done or your discussion done or your term paper done, I will not be helping you out. Okay, you're responsible to manage your own time and make decisions as to what you're going to submit and to whom you're going to submit it. I try and I think do a really good job of being 100% fair to everyone. If you don't have a doctor's note and you don't have an accommodation, then you're expected to hand things in on time. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't send me an email. If you want to send me an email, please do. I should warn you that sometimes people confuse my short, to the point emails for being curt. They are not. I have over 700 students. I do not, especially if I'm working from my mobile device, I do not write long email. I try and answer the questions that you ask without a lot of fluff or anything else. So I'm not a touchy-feely person. I am a person that will answer your questions and be very straight and honest with you. But don't read Allottonian. If we need to meet by Zoom or something like that to sort something out, we can do that. Emails are really imperfect form of communication. So don't think that because I write a 2-sentence email that I'm mad or that I'm whatever. I'm not. I'm just answering your question. Okay. So I just like to get that out of the way. The other thing is, if you have an issue, whatever that issue may be with the course, you need to give me a chance to resolve it first. I've had students in the past that send an email to my boss, who is Dr. Hurley, who's the head of computer science, or to Leo Groark, the president of Trent, or to whomever else they think they should send it to, often on a shotgun approach. All those people do is send it back to me to respond. Okay. So if I haven't been given a chance to resolve a situation, it will always come back to me. Mr. Groark, I don't know if it's Dr. Groark or not, is a busy guy, presumably. He is not going to deal with a 2750 students complaint that I didn't give an extension on a midterm, unless it's gone all the way up through the system and you've already talked to myself, Dr. Hurley, and you climb through the ladder. Okay. So no, that's how the world works. If I have a problem with Windows, I don't get to call Bill Gates. Okay. I work my way through technical support 1, technical support 2, technical support 3, and so forth. I'm technical support 1. So I'm the first stop. Okay. I'm not saying this because I want to stop you from, I don't want to stop you from talking to anyone you want to talk to. What I'm saying is that the process is, it starts with the low guy on the totem pole, which is me. Okay. So anyways, those are our 3 workshop leaders plus myself that'll be doing the marking. You can spend some time and read a little bit about the course in the introduction there in the getting started. And then the next and by far the most important page here is our syllabus. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the syllabus and just make sure that everything's covered. I do not have a phone number at the university. I will not be providing my personal cell number. I'm not a full-time professor. I'm a part-time instructor, I'm a course instructor. So I teach 2 courses this term, 1620, Introduction to Information Systems, and this course, Computer Crime and Forensics. And I'm a workshop leader in 1010, in COIS 1010. So if you're taking that course at the same time, you may see me. I may be marking your assignments there. Okay. I do work full time, and I do teach a couple courses over at Fleming as well. I'm a really busy workaholic. So co-instructors and teaching assistants to be announced. When we have to submit these way in advance, so I didn't know who my workshop leaders were going to be. Alyssa O'Neill is the academic admin assistant for COIS for computer science. She is an excellent resource. She can help with a lot of sort of administrative level things. It's not pertinent to this course, but if you were applying and you needed a waiver of a prerequisite, that's the person that you would be dealing with. She is fantastic. She helps a ton. So it's a general interest course. We're going to give you material in a bunch of different ways, the primary of which is going to be reading the textbook. People are always going to ask me if they need to buy the textbook. I can't force you to do anything. I don't think the textbook is very expensive in this course, and I do that on purpose, but it's very good. All the questions come from the textbook. All the content comes from the textbook. If you don't have the textbook or access to the textbook, you're not likely to do very well. I had a student, this was a couple times, I've taught this since 2018, and I was a workshop leader in this course from 2014. So I redesigned this course a few years ago now. I had a student say, I'm really struggling. I'm not doing well on the quizzes. And we did a Zoom session, and I said, I'm going to ask you a really silly question. I don't mean to offend you. Do you own the textbook? And the student said, no, I do not own the textbook. I said, well, you know, there's not much I can do here. Get the textbook, spend the $20 or $25 or whatever. Your life's going to be a lot easier. My lectures are designed to supplement the reading. Okay. I hopefully relate the information in a slightly different way than it's presented so that you gain further understanding. I tell some personal stories or some experiences along the way. If you skip my lectures, you can still get 100% in this course. There's nothing in my lectures that's not in the textbook. Okay. You're not tested on anything specifically from my lectures. Sorry, I've been talking straight for almost 2.5 hours now. We will have discussions. We will have some articles. I may post some video clips and sort of topical stuff. We have multiple different sources, but the textbook is king. It's the absolute essential part. I'll let you read the learning outcomes. The textbook is Learn Computer Forensics, a beginner's guide to searching, analyzing, and securing. It is the original. I think he has put out a second edition. I haven't had a chance to review the second edition. Excuse me. It is the first edition that it's based on. I would presume that you could make do with the second edition, but I only support the first edition right now. I'll probably update the course over the summer for next term. Okay. Text is mandatory. You're strongly encouraged to use the digital version. I say that because anything like the quizzes where it's open text, it's so much easier to do a search for keywords in an electronic version than it is to flip through the paper of a book. If you prefer a paper book, fill your boots, do whatever you want. But my strong recommendation is to have the digital version. Okay. I believe that it's available. Yeah, it's a Kindle book, so it's available through Amazon. You download it and you can view it through the online Kindle viewer, which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, read.amazon.ca. Goes to your library and you can view it there. Sorry, I'm just going to pause for 1 second before I entirely lose my voice. Mandatory submissions. So there are 2 mandatory submissions. Some of you have taken a course with me before. I do this with every course. So the first mandatory submission is that you complete the academic integrity module. You only have to do that once per year. So if you did it for September, that's great. But what I need is a screenshot, and I'll show you the specifics when we get to that location. But I need a screenshot that shows you have got perfect in the 3 modules, so 15 out of 15 or 3 5s, your name and the year, and then that's fine. I have to manually review that. So keeping in mind, we've got 369 in this course, and I've got, say, 325 in my other course. Maybe it's only 309 right now. So I've got about 700 of these to review. I've already reviewed anything up until yesterday that's been submitted to me. Don't leave it to the last minute. Do submit that and give me a chance to get it marked for you. I'll explain why in a second. The second mandatory submission is the course requirements quiz. There's 24 questions in that. And you need to score 100%. You'll have 5 attempts per week to do that. So if you run out of attempts this week, as of Saturday morning, I'll add another 5. And you'll be able to do that. The reason I do that, I used to make unlimited attempts, and I had students doing 45 or 50 random attempts until they got it right. I don't believe that anyone learns anything that way, and that just means that I get to mark a whole bunch of extra attempts, and that irritates me. So, because I expect that university students are intelligent, I expect that university students can think, they can research, and they can find answers. So I provide resources for all of the answers in the quizzes. So please take your time and do them. It tells you after each attempt which you got right and which you got wrong. So you can, and it's the same 24 questions, different order. So you will be able to eventually. It's going to be due tomorrow. I'll talk about that in a second. It's not a panic if you don't get it done. If you run out of attempts, there's no immediate impact for you. But I'll explain that in a second. What has to happen is you have to have your academic integrity submitted and marked as perfect, and your course requirements quiz marked as perfect to see your quizzes. Okay. If you don't do that, you won't see your quizzes. The good news is the quizzes aren't due tomorrow. They're not due till the end of next week. Okay. Term paper, I'll talk about that very specifically as I release that. You will be able to choose your topic. You'll have a bunch of different topics. I'll release them. You'll be able to choose your topic. You'll have to, and I'll show you where to go. Let me do that right now, actually. So see this groups topics tab right here. That's where when I release them, there's nothing there right now. If I go there, there's nothing. There will be a list of topics to choose once I release those to you. They're not due for a while. I'll release them with great fanfare. We'll talk about it in office hours. I'll make an announcement down the road. Okay, so that's your term paper. And that's one of the questions, by the way. This is where you choose your topic. That's one of the questions that's on your mandatory quiz. Okay, it's in the groups bracket topics. Okay, course discussions. No more than 500 words. What that effectively means is you want to use 400 or 500 words, somewhere around that. I don't count words exactly, but if you make a post that is 250 words long, you're just not going to have enough content to get a good enough mark. Okay. The 500 words, if you post 550 words or 450 words, I'm not going to penalize you as long as you make appropriate points and have enough content there. Okay. The discussions will be in the group discussions, not the general discussions. Okay, so there will be a place other than general discussions to submit your discussions. There's no discussions due right now. Again, I'll come back to that when we get a little closer. Keep your discussions professional. Don't get into a flame war or anything else silly. It's going to be due tomorrow. The quiz answer is 500 to 700 words. Yes, that is correct. Yep, absolutely. So previous iterations, I can correct that. I probably should correct that to just say 500 words. But yeah, if you choose 500 to 700 words, that'll be the correct answer. Okay. So don't get in a flame war. Don't use sort of casual language. Don't use short forms that you might use for texting or anything like that. Okay, so it is a formal, the discussion's a formal 500-word sort of mini essay, and there'll be citations and references required for that. Again, I'll get into that as we have one of those due. Okay. Module quizzes. Each chapter has a short online quiz. So there's a pool of questions. You'll get a group of questions. Your roommate who's in the same course will get a different group or some of the same and some different. All the questions are from the textbook. Okay, so I've written, unlike some other courses, I've written all the questions here by hand. So I know I took them straight out of the textbook. Okay. Midterm is going to be an open book online. I obviously have no problem with that. The caveat or the warning I would give you is that many people do very, very well in the open book online format, and they get to the final exam overconfident. The final exam is a lot harder because you don't have the open book there. The final exams were 30% too. So you should be passing the course by that point, but and I'll talk about this once we get closer to the final as well. Don't get overconfident because you're you've done really well up until that point, and think that you can go in without studying. You'll want to study for the final. So the grading, mandatory submissions aren't worth anything, but they do open up the quizzes for you. 5 discussions are worth 20%. I'm going to take the best 4 of 5. There's always a learning curve when it comes to the discussions. We will give you really clear feedback on where you've come up short. If you have come up short, please read that feedback. In addition to that, there'll be a 2-week period before you have to do the next discussion. We will, within a week of the submission, we will give you that feedback. So you'll have some time to digest that feedback before you have to go on to the next one. Okay. I'll cover this a little bit more as we go through. So schedule, week 1, that's this week. Overview, review of citing and referencing. So when I say that, if you look into course content, just jump a little ahead and you go to general. There's your citations and formatting, proofreading strategies, things like that you should please pay attention to. Okay. Submission of proof of completion of the academic integrity module. That's a screenshot. I'll go through that very specifically. That's supposed to be due by tomorrow at 11:59:00. Why am I so specific? Because at 11:59:01, it's marked as late. In the case of the academic integrity module, it doesn't matter. Or the course requirements, it doesn't matter. But in the case of quizzes and discussions, it does matter. If you are 1 second late, I will mark you as late. I don't have an arbitrary amount of time that I consider for a buffer period. It's due at 11:59:00 when I say due. So some people think that's harsh, but if I say to them, should it be a minute late? Should it be 2 minutes late? Should it be 3 minutes late? Should it be 10 minutes late? How much buffer should I give? And then all I do is I argue with the people that are 10 minutes and 1 second late, or 10 minutes and 2 seconds late. You see the problem. So I just make the line. It's due at 11:59:00. If the Blackboard system marks it as late, I treat it as late. Okay. So this week is pretty light. You've just got a little bit of stuff to do, but we start getting into the course next week. So Monday the 16th to the 22nd, we get into chapter 1. So we've got a quiz that's due by Friday at 11:59, and your first post of the discussion is due Friday at 11:59 as well. So your first discussion post is going to be the same criteria, and I'll go through it specifically here. It's going to be due at the 11:59 on Friday. It's the first post. You're going to make an opening post. You're not going to be able to see anyone else's answers. You're going to see the question, and you can't see it yet, but you'll see it starting Monday. And you'll make an answer to that question. That'll be your first post. Your second post, which is due the following week, the next Friday, is post 2. That's a response to someone else's. So you read someone else's, you'll be able to see a bunch of people in a group. I'll assign everyone to groups. There'll be probably 12 different groups that will be set up, something like that. So if let's say we've got 360, then we've got 30 people per group. You'll be able to see everyone else's post, and you'll pick one that you want to respond to. You can agree with that post, or you can disagree with that post, or you can do some combination, but you still need to do it in a scholarly way, in third person. Like I don't want, in my opinion, I don't want I and we and things like that. I want it in third person, and there's full instructions as we get there. And you still need references. It still has to be 500 words, give or take, and it still has to have 3 cited references. Okay, so first post and second post are identical in the requirements, and you need to do two separate posts for each discussion. Okay, and the reason I do the discussion 1, post 1 due this Friday, and discussion post 2 due next Friday, is because otherwise you might not have anything to respond to. Okay, so I need to force everyone to get their first one in so that everyone can read a bunch of different responses and pick something that they want to have an interaction with. Okay, so as you see the schedule, we just go week by week. It's one chapter per week, one quiz per week. In most weeks, there's one discussion. This week, of course, we don't have a chapter, we don't have a quiz, we don't have a discussion, but once we move past, we start having that week after week. So got week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, all have a chapter to read, a quiz to do, and a discussion. And then we have a nice reading break, and then we come back to a midterm, okay? The midterm, again, we'll talk about this later on. It'll be some combination of short answer and multiple choice, multiple answers. We'll talk about that. Now, I know that there's going to be people that have a conflict with that midterm because we don't have a class. We're an online asynchronous course. I will deal with that on an individual basis, and you'll certainly have an option to write at a different time. I will probably open up the exam for a limited period of time, like a few hours, for people to try and accommodate them. But beyond that, like say you're in class from 9 a.m. Monday until 5 p.m. Monday, then you're going to need to have an exception, and I'll deal with that. Okay. And then we start in week 9, we get into the next, the last half. So chapter 6, chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, and chapter 10. That brings us to the 13th week. And then the final exam during the exam period. Before I skip over it, you also have a term paper that's due in week 11 by the Friday. Okay, we'll talk about that before I release the topics. You'll have a bunch of different topics to choose from. You will choose your topic and then work on that term paper. Term paper is heavy enough. The expectations are high enough that you don't want to wait until week 11 to do it. You should be working on it pretty much a little bit once it's assigned. I know you've got competing priorities. I know that all your profs are tearing you in different directions. Maybe you work, maybe you have whatever going on in your life. The people that are going to get the best mark in their term paper are not going to write it just in week 11. Okay. Don't worry about midterm conflicts yet, please. Thank you. Thank you for that question. We'll deal with that as we get closer. It'll probably be within the last couple of weeks. Okay. I know that you probably can already tell. I won't be able to remember. So I'll announce a time when I want those, so that, because I've got to go in and make an exception, and I don't want to lose the email or, disappoint anyone, because I know you guys all love writing midterms. I don't want you not to be able to write the midterm. Okay. So the final exam is during the final exam period. It'll be scheduled by the school. You'll have 3 options as to how you write it. You will be able to write it online. They will always be proctored. So online through Examity, and maybe some of you have already done that. Maybe most of you have done that if you're going to do it that way. Or you can write it in Peterborough, or you can write it in Durham. I will be the proctor in Durham for our GTA people that want to come and don't want to drive all the way to Peterborough. You will get an email a month or so before the final exam, which will ask you to declare your location. If you do not, if you ignore that, you will be scheduled in Peterborough. I will not be sympathetic to people that send me an email the day before and say, but sir, I wanted to write it online, but sir, I live in Calgary. That's not my problem. You are expected to manage that. I will remind you when that email comes out to do it. You'll get reminders from email reminders, but you will be expected to pick your location. If you don't, again, just to repeat, you will be expected to show up in Peterborough. The reason we can't, even if I was sympathetic, which I'm not, I send a certain number of exams to Peterborough. I take a certain number of exams to Durham, and the Examity service schedules your appointments so that you can write that exam. Okay. So when you choose, if you choose online, there are requirements. So you need to have a webcam. You need to have a working microphone. You need to have a good internet and probably a backup internet. Your laptop, your desktop, whatever needs to work well. If you write online, and I recognize that there are students that are in this time zone, don't live in Canada even, that are going to write online, and that's fantastic. That's great. You'll need to schedule that with Examity, and we'll walk you through the whole process. There'll be a practice with Examity if you've never done it before. If your internet goes out, if you don't own a microphone, if you don't own a webcam or your webcam breaks, you can't write in Examity. That is not my problem. That is your problem. Okay, so just setting that expectation right now. If you are going to write by Examity, if you're going to write remotely, maybe you're going to take off on holidays with your parents or with a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever during the exam period, and you're going to write remotely. You need to have the equipment necessary and the internet connection to do that. And that is not the school's problem, which means it's not my problem. Okay. I encourage anyone that is in the local area to write in person. And I just say that because then you don't run the risk of the internet going out. You don't run the risk of your laptop crashing. None of these things have ever allowed anyone to write an exam again. Okay, so consider writing in person. And if you write in Durham, you get to see me and tell me what you think about the course. So yeah, I think I've covered most of what I wanted for the final exam there. It's an online course. You need to submit assignments in the right format, especially when we talk about the term paper. I will be very specific in what format I want it in. The reason that I want it in that format is so that we can use Turnitin and check it for plagiarism. Okay, more on that in a little while. But I will not mark it in another format. I just won't. I simply will not. Okay. I will warn you that you've submitted it in the wrong format, and there'll be penalties associated with submitting it in the wrong format, and there'll be a requirement to resubmit within a certain amount of time. So you need to have good internet. You need to have all the things that you need in order to get all the information that you need in this course. Okay. Final exams, just a warning, students should not make any commitments. I think most of you, again, are not, this is not your first rodeo. I will not be accommodating you because you're going on vacation or because you're returning home or anything else. If you can write it remotely, that's fine. There'll be a 24-hour period starting on whenever. So if the exam for everyone is, let's say, 10 a.m. on a Saturday, then the Examity period that it will be offered for will be 10 a.m. Saturday until 9:59 Sunday. So you'll have some flexibility, but say you're going home to Australia and you're flying that whole time, that's too bad. That's the risk you take when you schedule travel during exam time. Okay. Extensions for assignments. They may be granted on the basis of illness, accident, or something unanticipated. I try to be fair to everyone. I do not grant a whole lot of extensions. I do generally require doctor's notes or something equivalent to prove the need. You know, most things that go on in life, you are going to be assigned your midterm paper many weeks before when it's due. Start on it right away. Don't leave it to the last minute and then send me an email saying I ran out of time or whatever, or you know, I got a cold on the last day when it was due. You know, do things as expeditiously you know, as you possibly can. That's not to say that that I'm completely. I mean, you get in a car accident, you have. I had someone that had their spleen removed. I mean, these things happen. Stuff happens, and we figure out a way to work around that. So. Quizzes should be submitted on their due dates. If you get past the due time, they're not going to be available. It will be a grade of 0. I will not, under any circumstances, open up quizzes again. I don't have the option of just opening up the quiz for one person. It reopens for the whole class, which is a nightmare for me. So everyone that didn't get their quiz in, I now have to go through and give them a 0 manually because they're late. Discussion posts, the same thing. The first discussion post of the 2 discussion posts are due the first Friday at the 11:59. If you submit your first discussion post late, it'll be a flat 10% penalty. And then the second discussion post. So if for whatever reason you wanted to do 2 discussion posts on the second Friday, didn't get around to doing the first one, you just receive a 10% penalty for that. Again, the discussion closes Friday at 11:59:00, and it doesn't get reopened. So the term papers are a 10% penalty per day late, and I won't take them more than 7 days after they're due. That includes weekends and everything else. And it'll be a 0. So you start getting 5 days late, you've lost 50% of the mark, not of the mark that you attain, but 50% off the top. So if you get a 75 when I mark it, you get a 25. So it's, on the other hand, if you're just a day late, it's 10% off. It's not that big a deal. Okay. Of course, due dates and times are based on Peterborough time. Academic integrity. Every year, despite my warnings, I do about 15 academic integrity violations. And what I mean by that is someone plagiarizes their term paper. They decide to copy and paste from an internet source or from a friend or whatever. We do check submissions for plagiarism. If that raises a flag and research shows that you have just copied and pasted it from another assignment or from a web source or whatever, I will do the investigation. I take it very seriously. The school takes it very seriously. The penalties for plagiarism are as high as being kicked out of the school. Okay? Please don't do it. I say this every year. I hate doing the investigation. Not because I dislike investigating people that are cheating, but because it wastes a lot of my time. I have to meet with the student. I have to write up a report. I've got to follow up. My boss, Dr. Hurley, has to meet with the student. The dean has to meet with the student. There's consequences on the marks and everything else. If you've left yourself late on the assignment, and you decide that you're just going to try and copy and paste your way through, it's probably better to take the 0 than to take the penalty that we're going to assign for an academic integrity violation. If you by chance have taken this course before, you can't even submit your own information, like your own assignment that you've already submitted. You have to do it over again if you chose the same topic. Okay, so pay attention to the academic integrity module, understand what we consider cheating. If you need clarification, talk to me. That's not to say we go after people for mistakes. We do not. But if it's intellectual property is the cornerstone of university. Thoughts matter, and you stealing someone else's thoughts is just not going to fly in university. Okay, so please don't do it. And you and I won't have to have that conversation. Then the same thing, every year someone tries to cheat on the exam. And I say someone, multiple people try and cheat on the exam, and they get caught with a cell phone that someone's helping them with the answers, caught on video with that. We absolutely, I throw the book at them to the extent that I can. So please just don't do it. Okay. all we're trying to do is make it fair for everyone. If it's a closed book exam, then it should be a closed book exam for everyone. Okay, that's pretty much it for the syllabus, I think, for what I need to cover there. The next thing I want to look at is course content, which I already have. The general one is showing. Week 1 is going to show. I'm not sure, quite honestly, if I've got it opening on Saturday morning or Monday morning. Check on the weekend if you want. I usually open them a couple days before the week. Okay. Announcements. I will make announcements on a regular basis. Some of them I will also go out as an email, but please check the announcements periodically. There'll be some good information in there yeah, the final exam's in person or online proctored. It's proctored in person or proctored online. It's either at Durham or Peterborough by default. Check the announcements periodically. Assessments are where all the things like the quizzes are going to show up here. So here's the mandatory academic integrity module that some have been asking about. Here's a picture of what it's supposed to look like. Not all of them look exactly the same. The key elements to it are that it's the academic integrity, that it's for this year, so 2022-23, and that it's your name, and that you got it perfect, 5, 5, and 5, or 15 out of 15. So you submit that screenshot to me through this link right here, okay? And I have to manually review each and every one of those, okay? So bear with me. We know that the quiz is going to be due next week at on Friday, so in 8 days, essentially, at 11:59. If you haven't got your academic integrity submitted and your mandatory course requirements perfect, then you're not going to see the quiz at all. So you're going to miss out on the marks for the quiz, okay? If you wait until Friday at 8 p.m., there's a real good chance that I am not going to have a chance to mark it. I don't stay up, in my evenings because you've been late on submitting your stuff. If I happen to be sitting at the computer and happen to be marking them, I will. I would not do it, but I'm not promising that. So if you get through this week and like you haven't submitted it by Friday, which is when it's technically due, please submit it early next week so that I can continue to mark them on a daily basis, and the quiz will become available to you in lots of time. Okay. Hard copy textbook is okay. The online version is not mandatory. I have no way of enforcing that. I just think that's easier because it's open book quizzes, open book midterm. It's easier for you to search for content on an online version, but it's up to you, entirely up to you. Okay. The mandatory course requirements is a 24 marks. You need to get that perfect. So I've covered the versioning. I think the 2022 is probably all right, but the version that I support is the original 2020. Okay. So do get the older version as first choice. Okay. So all my questions, I haven't had a chance to go through all the chapters and compare and see what's changed, generally it's additional content. But I'm supporting the 2020 version, okay, primarily. It's hard to imagine that the 2022 would have anything different within the content. It might have new content on top of it, okay. So the course requirements quiz, you have 5 attempts to get that right. Every Saturday, I will add another 5, okay. The reason I do that, and I may have already said this, the reason I do that is I've had students in the past take 45 random attempts to get it right. I want you to think about the questions. I want you to research the answers. All the resources are provided either in the syllabus or elsewhere in the content. or I've talked about them here in the office hours. So you should be able to get them right. Undoubtedly, the hardest two questions are the ones around APA formatting. I have provided resources. You need to understand how APA formatting works because I insist on it in both your discussions and in the term paper. That's why those questions are there, so that you understand APA formatting. I am not going to answer the questions for you. I'm not going to give you hints or anything else. Please read the website link, watch the video, Google, do whatever you need to do to teach yourself how APA formatting works. Okay. You can always talk to an academic advisor or an academic skills person if you're really struggling. But honestly, it's not that hard. It's a matter of comparing my answers to what's sitting in the website that outlines the format itself. So again, come Saturday morning, you'll have 5 more attempts. If you're not successful in that, you will miss the first quiz. Okay, so that'll be 10. Okay, so you get 10 attempts. So the quiz is due. If you look in the syllabus, the quiz is due. Let my syllabus populate here. I've got every single week out for you. So this is week 1, no quiz due. Week 2, chapter 1 quiz due Friday. Okay, so that's the Friday in this week. Okay, so everything's in the syllabus. It will also come up in your assessments. You will see chapter 1 quiz will populate here. Okay. Okay, so that's the assessments. General discussions are, well, it looks like I haven't looked in a little while. There's going to be some questions in here and responses. So in-person lecture, office hours are recorded. I've responded to that person. Not sure why it said that I hadn't. Yeah, I've actually seen both these. So this is somewhere where you can ask. I don't look at them every day. So if you have a question that's more urgent, send me an email. If you have a question that a colleague or a peer can answer, you can post it there. I will jump in every couple or few days. I don't spend a lot of time looking there. It's sort of an office cooler where you can have discussions with your peers. Okay. That's not where you're going to submit your discussion answers. There'll be a link for that that I'll get out for you. Group topics are where you're going to choose your topic for your term paper. Zoom live sessions is where you aim to hear. Academic skills, Blackboard help, and library subject guides are just there to help you out. My grades is really important. Keep on top of the grades and check your feedback through there, so that you know how you're doing. The one thing in Blackboard is if you don't submit something, it doesn't update the denominator. So if there's 2 quizzes, and let's say the 2 quizzes are worth 5% each, so and you got perfect on the first one, then you've got 5 out of 5. And Blackboard says you've got 100% in the course. If you don't submit the second quiz, it doesn't say that you've got 5 out of 10. It stays at 5 out of 5 for what you have submitted. The way I do all my marks is that they are out of the number of marks that they contribute towards your final mark. So if we go back to the syllabus and I don't know why it takes so long to load. And we look at the quizzes. Each quiz is going to be worth 1.5%, so they're out of 1.5. Okay, so if you look at that number, that is the cumulative marks that you've got towards your final mark. Okay. The caveat to that is that you could get more marks than you deserve, in that you're going to have 5 discussions. If you do all 5, you could get up to 25 out of 20, but I'm only going to ultimately count the best 4 marks there. Okay. The while I'm here, the grade total by withdrawal date. So the course withdrawal date is March 10th, 20. That's interesting. That should be 23. Bear with me. I just want to check and make sure it is the 10th. It is March the 10th. Yeah, Friday, March 10th at 2023, obviously. You will have 37.5% of your mark in at that point, and you may need to make a tough decision. If you're not doing well in the course, you may want to withdraw before that time. If you do not withdraw and you fail the course, or you don't do anything more in the course, the mark goes on your transcript. So say you did one quiz and you got 1.5 out of 1.5, and you did nothing else and you didn't withdraw, you will get a 1.5 on your transcript. Okay. So that's all that does. It has nothing to do with fees or money. It's if you need to withdraw before the course withdrawal date, if you don't want that mark to appear on your transcript. I always recommend that you talk to an academic advisor in order to make that determination. So yeah, monitor your MyGrades. You will see feedback on there for your discussions and things like that should help you. Okay. One of the questions on APA formatting, I read through the website on in-text citations, but the answer I saw on the website was wrong, as well as the video. Is it possible to point you in the right direction? No, it's not. You will have to reread that. I assure you 100% for sure that they are correct. I've literally had thousands of people answer these questions. I do them with every single course. There's 700 more people this term that are answering the question. Keep in mind that they are a multiple answer question. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, whatever, that could be right. So I would suggest going line by line, seeing if that line is correct, comparing it to the sample on the website, and then doing the same for the next line. So yes, just scrolling back through questions here. So yes, if you haven't passed and got perfect on your academic, your course requirements quiz and submit your academic integrity, you've exhausted your attempts, you've taken 10 attempts before next Friday and you haven't passed that, you are going to miss the quiz. That's an incentive to not do that. Okay. I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I can stop sharing. I don't need to anymore. Turn my video. And I just want to see, we're down to about 85 participants at this point. If you don't have questions, absolutely feel free to get on with your evening. Thank you very, 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 very much for joining. It really means a lot. It really helps students get off on the right foot. The people that watch the office hours and attend the office hours, always the students that do best in the course. The people that do not do either of those two things are often disappointed by how poorly they do in the course, because they get to the end and they say, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. So, okay, thank you very much. And I will get some marking done. And I will post this so that you can review it for the last few minutes. And the people that weren't able to attend can watch the office hours. If you have a question that you want to ask me privately, you're welcome to stick around and I will be happy to do that. I'll just wait for a few minutes while everyone signs off. I can put people in private rooms if that becomes I see a hand up, so go ahead. Oh, sorry, I apologize. That's my cursor turned into a hand. How many questions will you have on the quiz? It'll vary chapter to chapter depending on, it's no more than 25. I think it's usually less than that. But yeah, no more than 25 typically. Quiz is not timed. You can take as much time as you want. You can save it and resume it, with the caveat being that it will be auto submitted once you get to that. Sorry, I don't think it's auto submitted. So yeah, you can run out of time on it. So submit it before the due date, but you'll be able to start it, pause it, stop it. You can even leave it open in your browser, but submit it before it's due, please. Just one attempt to the quiz. Yeah, absolutely. But it's open book, so you can, research it, make sure you get it right. I don't you haven't asked this question, but I don't post the answers to the quiz. You just get your marks. And the reason for that is those quiz questions may show up again in your midterm and your final. It all comes from the same pool for the multiple choice, multiple answer portion of it. So I encourage you to go ahead and save, do screenshots, do whatever you need so that you have the questions. You may want to screenshot all the questions, and then if you got perfect, then all those answers, and then you don't have to worry about those particular ones. Hey, Janisha, nice to see you again.
Hi, I had a private question, so I was wondering if I can go last.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any tips for doing well in the discussions? Yeah. The tips there are just to kind of write. You're going to want to do multiple edits. So what I would do if I was doing a discussion, I would see the question and I'd do a draft on one day, and I just put all my thoughts down, do my research or whatever, get at least 3 sources to answer the question, cite them in the body. So having a list of references without citations doesn't do you any good. And I'll go into more detail next office hours on this. But I would do a draft early on in the week, and then I would revise that draft again before I submitted it by the Friday. Okay. And if I didn't have time in that first week for the discussion 1 of 2, I would take the 10% penalty in order to do it well, as opposed to rushing it in and getting full marks for kind of a crappy submission that probably won't score that well. Okay. But those are my thoughts. We do mark them very carefully. It takes a lot of time to mark discussions, but I think it's very valuable. There's a lot to be learned in terms of writing well, in terms of logical thought processes, in terms of researching the subject. So I find the discussions very valuable. They're a lot of work for you guys, but they're also a lot of work for us, and we'll give very, very specific feedback. And it's best 4 out of 5. So even if you blow the first one, you're good. On the other hand, if you get the first 4 discussions, you do really well. You don't even have to bother writing the 5th one. Okay. Is there anyone that has sort of a public question that you don't mind other people listening in on? Otherwise, if everyone's got private questions, like some people will have walked away from their computer, they're not even there at this point, and that's fine. If everyone's got private questions, I'm going to put everyone in private rooms, and I'll just come around and talk to you privately. Okay. Looking forward to marking your stuff as well. So good luck in the course.